Even the birds and beasts cry because of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Actually, when Lord Chaitanya was traveling through the Jarikhanda forest, he induced even the animals in the forest to amazingly, miraculously, to chant and dance, get up on their hind legs and chant Hare Krishna. That's his power. And even the stones melt. But sangsare majia rohile pariya shepade nahilo asha. That being absorbed, the poet is saying, being absorbed in the process of sense gratification of material life, I don't have that attraction to their lotus feet. Apana karoma bhunjaye shamana kohoye lochanadas. Therefore Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, is punishing me by not allowing me to be attracted by this movement of Lord Chaitanya, the Sankirtan movement. So Srila Prabhupada has written this purport. This is a song by Lochan Das Thakur. Prabhupada gave a class and they transcribed it into this songbook. Pahu means lords, and Duijana means two. Lochan Das Thakur declares that the two lords, Nityananda Gaurachandra, Nitai Gaurachandra, Lord Nitai and Lord Chaitanya, are very merciful, Parama Karuna. Shaba Avatara Shar Shiromani. Avatara means incarnation and Shab means all. They are the essence of all incarnations. The specific significance of these incarnations is that prosecuting their way of self-realization is simply joyful, Kevala Ananda Kanda. For they introduced chanting and dancing. There are so many incarnations, such as Lord Rama and even Krishna, who taught Bhagavad Gita, which requires knowledge and understanding. But Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda introduced a process that is simply joyful, simply chanting and dancing. Therefore, Lochan Das requests everyone, Bhaja Bhaja Bhai Chaitanya Nitai. My dear brothers, I request that you just worship Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda with firm conviction and faith. Don't think that this chanting and dancing will not lead to the desired goal. It will. It is the assurance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that one will get all perfection by this process. Therefore, one must chant with firm faith and conviction. Vishwasa Kori. So, who could not be attracted to this process of self-realization that involves only singing and dancing? Everybody likes to sing and dance and celebrate and to take nice prasadam and to have nice association with wonderful people, nice devotees and friendship. This Sankirtan movement is so attractive and so easy, really. So Lochan Das is glorifying that way. Rupa Goswami described Lord Chaitanya as the Mahavadanyaya avatar. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. Why is he the great Mahavadanyaya, the most merciful of all incarnations? Because Krishna Prema Pradayate. He's giving Krishna Prema to people for free. Ordinarily, just to even obtain some knowledge about how the spirit soul is different from the body, or to attain some realization about spiritual and theological truths, takes lifetimes of sacrifice and study and self-abnegation and other things. But after attaining all those things, even higher than that is attaining love. Love for Krishna. That's very rarely attained by even the topmost saints. And Lord Chaitanya is just giving it like that. You can see here on the altar, he's standing there with his hands out. Come on, take it. What is the process? The process is Vishayacharya Se Rashe Majya. If one wants to be Krishna conscious by this process, one has to give up his engagement in sense gratification. That is the only restriction. If one gives up sense gratification, it is sure that he will reach the desired goal. Mukhe bolo hari hari. One simply has to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Hari Hari, without any motive of sense gratification. So you might say, well, wait a minute. 1 minute ago we said it was just easy. It's simply joyful. But now you're telling us we have to give up our engagement in sense gratification. That's going to be very hard. We're addicted to so many types of sense gratification. But the chanting of Hare Krishna is so nice that this, say, Rashe Majia, that you begin to relish these, the taste of the sweetness of this turning our attention from material things to Krishna. And so it's actually not that hard. When in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes how yogis, by practicing control, regulation of the senses, according to the proper method, then his prasadam descends, and one gets a higher taste. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarja rasang pyasya parang drishtva nivartate. Rasopyasya parang drishtva nivartate. So he says that, many endeavoring transcendentalists may try to restrict their senses from the sense objects, according to yamas and niyamas of practicing yoga, rules and regulations, don'ts, do's and don'ts. But they may always fall down. We have examples in the lore of Vedic culture. For example, this Vishvamitra Muni was meditating, but then Indra got jealous and sent a beautiful heavenly damsel to come. And when he heard the ankle bells tinkling of Menaka, his meditation broke and he became attracted to enjoy and marry her, and their daughter was born, Shakuntala. Beautiful poetry about Shakuntala in Sanskrit language. And there's so many examples of yogis who try, but because the senses are strong and impetuous, Krishna warns us in Bhagavad Gita, and they can carry away our mind. But when he says, Rasavarjang rasopyasya parang drishtva nivartate, when we have a higher taste, parang drishtva, then nivartate. It's easy to give up something lower. Right? If you're accustomed to eating some bad food all the time, and then someone introduces you, wait a minute, come to this restaurant here where they have such nice, flavorful food, then you'll experience that you just want to eat at that restaurant. You never want to go back to the greasy spoon where you were eating practically dog food or something, I'm not going to taste that anymore. So similarly, when you're engaged in Krishna consciousness in the Sankirtan movement and you get addicted to that bliss of Krishna consciousness, then you can easily lose attraction for your previous engagements in smoking and drinking alcohol and going to bars that smell like beer and, eating meat and things like that. It just becomes, you lose your taste for it. Hanumat Swami was telling us one time that I forget what temple it was, maybe Berkeley Temple, they somehow got a monkey. They somehow adopted a monkey. Somebody may have had a pet or something, and they had this little South American monkey that was in the temple. And he said that I noticed that we tried to feed him some sugar cane, but this particular monkey, whatever his taste was, he just wasn't interested. He couldn't eat sugar cane. It wasn't his senses weren't, I don't know much about monkeys. Maybe some monkeys really like sugarcane, but this monkey didn't. And he was telling that example that once you get a taste for Krishna consciousness, then your senses are different, and you don't have a taste for engagements in things that don't please Krishna. You begin to this Sankirtan movement awakens us to want to do things that please Krishna, which keep us on the spiritual platform and will actually make us more elevated in every way in consciousness and more enlightened. Deka ore bhai, tribhuvane nai. Lochandas Thakur says, my dear brothers, you just try to examine this. Within the three worlds, there is no one like Lord Chaitanya or Lord Nityananda. So the three worlds, there's heavenly planets, and there's earthly planets, and then there's subterranean planets. So there's three different, actually there's 14 different planetary systems, but in general we can think of these Tribhuvanani, these three worlds, all throughout the universe. No one is like Lord Chaitanya. There is no one like Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda because their merciful qualities are so great that they make even birds and beasts cry, what to speak of human beings. Actually, when Lord Chaitanya passed through the forest known as Jharikanda, the tigers, elephants, snakes, deer, and all other animals joined him in chanting Hare Krishna. Sometimes you would say, oh, they made the birds and beasts cry. It's just like an exaggeration or literary embellishment. But actually, this is factual. Lord Chaitanya made even animals cry in love of Krishna. It is so nice that anyone can join. Even the animals can join, what to speak of human beings. Of course, it is not possible for ordinary men to induce animals to chant. But if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could inspire animals to chant, at least we can encourage human beings to adopt this path of Hare Krishna mantra chanting. It is so nice that even the most stone-hearted man will be melted. Pashana means stone. It is so nice that even stone will melt. So this Hare Krishna movement is so nice also that Srila Prabhupada has induced us to chant, and but also part of the engagement, the mission he's given us, is to go out and share this with others, and induce other people. So it's a very nice process. When we go on the mini festivals on Harinam, and we chant in public, and we're inviting everybody, please come join us. Try it, you'll like it. It's very, very nice. It doesn't cost anything, it's not very hard. And it's a higher taste that will induce you to give up your lower engagements in dangerous things and unwholesome things. But Lochan Das Thakur regrets that he is entrapped by sense gratification. He addresses himself. So this is the mood, the humble mood of Vaishnavas, that the poets are always showing us, this humble mood, that we don't think, oh, I'm so fortunate, I've become a successful devotee, and feel boastful and everything. We always feel like we still have so much more, so much farther to go. We stay in this humble, what do they say? There was something somebody said, the beginner mind or something like that. If you're ready to learn, you can learn so much. If you feel yourself very fallen and meek, then you can chant, Lord Chaitanya says, purely. Amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. You can chant constantly. If you're always ready to give respects to others and you expect no respect for yourself. So this is the actual mood. The Vaishnavas learn to actually feel this humility, that even though this process is so nice, I haven't been successful at it. I'm still a beginner. I'm still attracted. That actually increases their enjoyment of the bhakti rasa. He addresses himself, my dear mind, you are entrapped in this sense gratification process, and you have no attraction for chanting Hare Krishna. Since you have no attraction for the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, what can I say? I can simply think of my misfortune. Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, is punishing me by not allowing me to be attracted by this movement. So even though it's so attractive, we can see in our missionary work that sometimes we approach people and say, please take it. Please take this book, discuss this philosophy with me, try this mantra. I'll give you a free meditation lesson. We can sit here with the japa beads and chant around together, and you'll see. I've done that. I've sat on the street corner with a sign, free meditation lesson, and people come up and we chant a round of japa, and then I ask them how they feel, and they say, oh yeah, after chanting around, oh, I feel much lighter, I feel like all the worries have been lifted from me, and I feel very happy, and so they experience that. But if they don't stay in good association, they may become, go back to the habit. It's hard to change the habit to get everyone to stay in the fire of this Krishna consciousness process. Of course, Lochandas was always in the fire, but he's thinking of himself that way, that, oh, I'm so unfortunate. Yamaraj, of course, in Greek mythology, there's Hades, right? The underworld where people go when they die, and so Yamaraj is the Lord of Death, who administers the laws of karma. According to what one's sinful and pious activity did, he assigns you to your next life. And so if someone is not attracted, we may think it's because of their misfortune, because of their bad karma, somehow or another, they've become unable to see how nice it is. Just like the monkey who wouldn't eat sugar cane. Or Srila Prabhupada would give the example that sometimes if you give nice halava to a hog, the hog will prefer to eat stool, Srila Prabhupada said. Because that's the kind of senses he's acquired from Yamaraj because of his past activities. So Lochandas, in this mood of humility, is praying that, oh, I have no attraction, I'm still... Because you have to Vishayacharya, Serase Majia. That is the one catch is that you do have to give up your engagement, turn your engagement away from sense gratification to the mellows of worshiping Krishna. So I really like that song. Any comments or discussion about the song before we go to the next? Jai Ramananda Sakha. Get the microphone because people may be watching at home.
I have a question that you just told that by telling this, or I don't have a fortune and still I don't feel the taste. Actually, it increases the attraction. How does it happen? That's interesting, the process.
How does it happen? Yeah, it's part of the process that Srila Prabhupada described that chanting Hare Krishna, when we do it right, we do it like a child crying for its mother. It's really the truth that Krishna is great and we're part of Krishna, so we have these qualities like Krishna. In fact, we have the capacity to enjoy like Krishna does. But we're very small. We're completely dependent on Krishna. And our material false ego, illusion condition is we think, oh, I'm independent. I don't need Krishna. I don't need to think about Krishna. I'm okay. We approach people with books sometimes and they say, no thanks, I'm all set. I'm good. Don't bother me. I have important things to do. I'm going to go to a restaurant and a movie, and I'm going to go to make a business deal, and I don't have time to, some people think, I think it's nice that you're out here, and religion is a good thing and everything, but it's not for me. Yeah, I was doing something else. So, but when we actually become wise, when we actually become enlightened in Krishna consciousness, we realize how we're completely dependent on Krishna. In fact, the Lord Chaitanya exhibited the mood of the greatest devotees. They can't even live for a minute without Krishna being present. And when they feel that Krishna is not present, of course Krishna is present whenever they think of him, and they're always thinking of him, so he's always present. But they have a kind of ecstasy where they feel that Krishna is not present, and they miss him very much. It's they call it vipralambha bhav, or the mood of separation. That when you have this feeling like, oh, the person that I love is not with me, and you're so absorbed in this sort of bittersweet feeling of how I want to be with him, that feeling can become so overwhelming. So the gopis in Vrindavan, they would curse, during the rasa dance it said that they cursed the creator of the universe, Brahma, because he gave us eyes that have to blink. And when our eyes blink, for that second we don't see Krishna. That split portion of a second when we blink our eyes. Oh, why couldn't he make us with eyes that never blinked? Of course, their eyes never blinked because they were always staring at Krishna. So that feeling of humility is a very important part of devotional service. It's an important part of love. That when love fully blossoms, there's also the pain of being separated from your beloved and longing. In Portuguese, they have the fada singers, because the men were sailors, and they would go off, and their girlfriends would sing songs of longing, and saudade is the word they use. It means that we don't have an English equivalent for saudade, but it means this kind of homesickness, melancholy, missing your beloved. So this is a very important emotion and a very important part of love. So Krishna consciousness is true love, is real love, and the love that we hear about in our different popular music and in Romeo and Juliet and all the different romantic dramas and things like that is just a pale imitation of the love that's in Srimad Bhagavatam, that we see the love story of Krishna and his devotees and how it makes them feel. And that's the real love, and that's what Lord Chaitanya is giving. Krishna prema pradayate. He's giving that real love, and he's also teaching that prema pumarta mahan, that the actual goal of life is not even to acquire knowledge, not even to acquire spiritual knowledge. Of course, spiritual knowledge comes automatically when one has devotional service. But it's certainly not to acquire riches. Like there's a bumper sticker that says, "Whoever dies with the most toys wins." So people wonder, what is the goal of life? What do I have to do with my life? And just accumulating things that we can't use in our afterlife is certainly not a very intelligent idea of what we should dedicate our lives to. But there is something that stays with us. Krishna says, "Yang yang vapi smarang bhavang tyajatyante kalevarang tang tamevaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha." That whatever state of consciousness we're in, whatever the content of our heart, our emotional bhav, that carries us to our next lifetime, to what kind of body we'll get, what kind of birth we'll take, in which of the three worlds that we were talking about before, where we'll go. We should understand that the universe is a much more complex place than what we can see with our senses, or that what our astronomers and so forth can imagine with their ascending process of making theories based on sense observations. But there's a whole world that we can hear about in the Vedic literatures, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where there are different realms for different people with different states of consciousness. So what our goal in life should be is to develop our consciousness in such a way to make progress to recover our consciousness of Krishna and to recover our love of Krishna, Krishna prema. And that love of Krishna is the highest goal, the highest achievement. Some yogis achieve different kinds of perfections, like they can become laghima siddhi, they can become light, they could walk on water or float in air, or sit on a flying carpet and go where they want to go, or something like that. And or they can become very small, or they can become very big, or they can take things from far distances. there's different kinds of perfections that they can achieve. They can read minds and bend people to their will, and they can defy ordinary laws of nature. But we can achieve similar things with kind of grosser technology nowadays. We can talk to people from long distances. Now we're developing modems and things. We can instantly... My son was in the hardware store today to fix a cabinet in our kitchen, and he said, I need you, he called up and he said, I need you to send me a picture of the existing bracket that's there now. So very easily I took the smartphone and took a picture and hit message and sent it. So that's kind of like a mystic power, but it's done with very modern, gross, mundane Kali Yuga technology. So all those things are not very wonderful. Those are not goals. What's the value of such a goal, to have such powers, to be able to become very small and, so I could walk through a keyhole or become invisible or whatever, or become very strong. When I was a child, I read Yogananda's book. I don't know if any of you have read Autobiography of a Yogi. And he was describing these different yogis and saints that he knew, that he had met in his lifetime, that had, powers. Someone could produce fragrances, just make something smell very nice. But those aren't very intelligent goals, and it's not the real goal of yoga practice. And certainly the goal isn't so you look good in a bathing suit or something like that. A lot of people nowadays, they do yoga because they want to get the yoga body. I've seen people talk about that. They want a slender, flexible body that they associate with the look of people who practice the asanas that are associated with yoga. And a lot of times in America, when you talk about yoga, people are thinking that you're really just talking about a series of physical exercises for increasing strength and flexibility and health and so forth, losing fat. But the goal of yoga practice is really to love Krishna. That's the ultimate goal. And Bhagavad Gita is the teachings of Yogeshwara Krishna, the topmost yogi, the master of all yoga. And so if we want to understand yoga, and there's no better place than Bhagavad Gita to understand the whole philosophy. I think the Americans are starting to realize, a lot of them become attracted to yoga, but then they realize that yoga is not just a kind of calisthenics, it's also rooted to a system of metaphysics and philosophy and belief and religion and so forth. So they want to learn some more about that, so we can offer them that this is one of the great, certainly probably the most well-known and greatest ancient book about the philosophy of yoga is Bhagavad Gita. You won't find in it a lot of discussion of the downward-facing dog and the, sun, greeting the sun salutations or anything like that. Krishna talks about sitting on a mat with your head and neck in a straight line and your eyes pointed at the tip of the nose, which can be this tip of the nose between the eyebrows. I always thought it was that. Some people think it's that. That makes me uncomfortable when I try to do that. And to focusing the mind on the absolute truth. So, but the Bhagavad Gita is so much more than that because it describes Krishna as ultimately what we should think about. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mang namaskuru. So let's start the Bhagavad Gita class now. It's 6:30. We have until 8. Did I answer your question? That feeling of humility is actually the real feeling of the small soul, that we need and we depend on Krishna, and we need to be with Krishna, and we just couldn't make it. Yes, the feeling, the mood of separation, that somehow I'm so unfortunate that I can't be with Krishna, and I want to so bad. And I was thinking that there was a prayer by Madhavendra Puri, and he said, let the family members say I'm misguided, and let the wealthy materialists say I'm a fool, and let the religious people say, and let everyone criticize me, but still I won't budge an inch from my determination to worship Govinda, even though I can't do it. He has that mood of like, even though I couldn't actually, in fact, when he was leaving the world, he sang a song or sang a verse that was saying, that, "Oh Krishna, because I can't see you, my heart has become unsteady. What will I do? O Lord of Mathura." He had that mood of longing that Lord Chaitanya more fully developed and expressed. Ramananda Saka, you had a question about the song before we go on to the Gita.
My comment is also about the humility. In this song, the Lochandas says in the end that because he is attached to material desires, he is not able to take advantage of the mercy being shown by Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. My comment is that it's not that they are saying it because it feels good to say so, or to increase their image in some way. It is really the feeling of their heart that they're sharing with others.
Yeah, they
sometimes
really feel.
we may see that some devotee may say, "I'm very low," but actually in the mind he is thinking, "I'm very high."
But these genuine devotees, of course, we know that Lochandas is not attached to sense gratification. But part of his not being attached to sense gratification is that feeling that I am, inconceivably. That's the real feeling of devotees, that they feel like they're introspective, actually. This is an important quality of devotees. Hare Krishna, welcome. An important quality of devotees is that they don't tend to. Sometimes when we go out in Palo Alto and we chant Hare Krishna, there's sometimes a Christian group there. I don't mean to criticize Christianity or anything, but there's this one group that they have signs. They actually do have signs that say, "God hates you." And what they do is they're testifying, their preaching is that they stand up on a higher platform than everybody else with a microphone and they say, "You are fornicators, you are sodomites, you are greedy, homosexuals," and whatever. They start and they say, "You're going to hell, God hates you, He hates what you're doing, He hates," and we're chanting Hare Krishna and asking everybody, please come join us in praising the holy names of God. And people, actually, it's Krishna's arrangement because the people see the contrast and they come up to us and they say, "Thank you so much for being here. I really like your presentation," and that, but it's a mood of devotees not to feel themselves very self-righteous and tell everybody else what's wrong with them. I mean, most people, if they don't ask you, "Please help me, how can I change, how can I improve?" And if you sort of volunteer, you're doing that wrong. You really shouldn't do things that way. Most people resent it, they feel, "Why are you criticizing me?" People want to be praised and they don't want to be criticized. So the mood of a devotee is really to examine their own heart, their own life, their own the things that they can control of themselves, their own mind. Like Lochandas is praying to his own mind. "My dear mind, become attracted to the Sankirtan movement." So they look for something in themselves that, and they'll search so much that they'll even find little tiny things that none of us would know. We have these big problems, and they're way beyond us. But even these little tiny things that they'll feel like, "Oh, that's a fault of mine. I don't have." Like Lord Chaitanya once was in that mood of ecstasy, he was saying that if I had any love for Krishna, how could I continue eating when Krishna's not here? my life is like the life of a fly. Just it was anyway. This is how Lord Chaitanya in ecstasy was considering himself. And sometimes when the residents of Vrindavan also, that it was part of Krishna's pastimes that at some point he left Vrindavan, and then they had to struggle with his absence, and they would sometimes, because of the love, the intensity of their love, they would talk like mad people. And Krishna sent his very close confidant, his cousin Uddhava, to go to Vrindavan to bring them a message that he would be coming back soon, and not to despair that he was gone. He was just taking care of some things. And Uddhava looked very much like Krishna, and Krishna thought that if Uddhava goes there, they'll be more satisfied. If he goes there and he brings them this message from me, that they'll be pacified. But when Uddhava went there, he saw how they were going. Some of them were imitating. They were performing like dramas, where one would be like Krishna and one would be, they would do all kinds of different things to remember Krishna. And in fact, Radharani starts talking to a bumblebee. She sees a bumblebee, and she starts thinking the bumblebee is a messenger from Krishna. And then she starts thinking that she sees kumkum on the bumblebee's mustache, and it must be that Krishna was with some girl in Mathura or Dwarka, and that the kumkum came from the garland of Krishna that had touched this girl's the kumkum on her breast, the red powder, and she became jealous, and she started criticizing Krishna to the bumblebee, and then she became afraid that the bumblebee would go tell Krishna what she said, and then she started. So when Uddhava saw the behavior of Krishna's devotees, how their love was so intense, he became very, very humbled to see that, how much love. We have no idea, how much someone can really love Krishna. And we have this idea that we have all these songs about love and love affairs, and our popular music is all how I'm in love with someone and then make me feel happy, and then we broke up and it made me feel sad and stuff. But that kind of love is very, very pale compared to the love of Krishna. And Krishnadas Kaviraj says that gold and iron are both metals. So in one sense you say, they're the same. So similarly, this mundane love may seem like love of Krishna. There's girls and boys, and they're, dancing together and making poetry to each other, whatever. But he says the love of Krishna is like gold, and it's just a completely different category from the black metal of like you see a horseshoe made out of, or something like that, So let's chant Jai Radha Madhava and talk about Bhagavad Gita. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Privrajakacharyasta Tarasata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Privrajakacharyasta Tarasata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we'll read, I want to read from chapter 9. How about verse 8? Chapter 9, verse 8. Prakritim swam avashtabhya. Prakritim swam avashtabhya. Visrajami punaha. Punaha Visrajami punaha punaha Bhutagramam imam Krishnam Kritsnam Bhutagramam imam Kritsnam Avasham Prakriter Vashat Avashang Prakriter Vashat Prakriting Swam Avashtabhya Prakriting Swam Avashtabhya Visrajami Punah Punaha Bhutagramam imam Kritsnam Avashang Prakriter Vashat Prakriting Swam Avashtabhya Visrajami Punah Punaha Bhutagramam imam Kritsnam Avashang Prakriter Vashat Prakriting Swam Avashtabhya Visrajami Punah Punaha Bhutagramam imam Kritsnam Avashang Prakriter Vashat Prakritin Swam Avashtabhya Vishrajami Punah Punaha
Bhutagramam imam Krishnam
Bhutagramam imam Kritsnam
Avasam Prakritir Vasat
Avashang Prakriter Vashat
Prakritim swam avastabhyam
Prakriting Swam Avashtabhya
Vishrajami punha punha
Visrajami Punah Punaha
Bhutagramam imam Krishnam
Bhutagramam imam Kritsnam
Avasham Prakriti Vashat
Avashang Prakriter Vashat
Prakritim Svamavashtabhya
Prakriting Swam Avashtabhya
Vishrajami Puna Puna
Visrajami Punah Punah
Bhutagramam imam Krishnam
Bhutagramam imam Kritsnam
Avasham Prakrite Vashat
Avasang Prakriter Vashat
Prakritim Swamavashtabhyam
Prakriting Swamavashtabhya
Visrajami Punaha
Vishrajami Punah Punaha
Bhutagramam imam Kritsnam
Bhutagramam imam kritsnam
Avasham prakriter vashat.
Apashang prakriter vashat.
Prakritim swamavashtabhya
Prakriting swamavastabhya
visrajami punah punaha
Vishrajami punak punaha
bhutagramamimam kritsnam
Bhutagramam imam kritsnam
avasham prakriter vashat.
Abhashang prakriter vashat. Anyone else?
Prakritim swam avastabhya
Prakriting swamavastabhya
Visarjami punha punha
Visrajami punak punaha
Bhutagramam imam krishnam
Bhutagramam imam kritsnam
Avasham prakritir vasat.
Abhashang prakriter vashat. Word meanings. Prakritim, the material nature. Swam, of my personal self. Avashtabhya, entering into. Visrajami, I create. Punak punaha, again and again. Bhutagramam, all the cosmic manifestations. Imam, these. Kritsnam, in total. Avasham, automatically. Prakritehe, of the force of nature. Vashat, under obligation. Translation: the whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again, and under my will, it is annihilated at the end. Please repeat. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested. Again and again. And under my will, it is annihilated at the end. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This material world is the manifestation of the inferior energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This has already been explained several times. At the creation, the material energy is let loose as the Mahat Tattva, into which the Lord, as his first Purusha incarnation, Mahavishnu, enters. He lies within the causal ocean and breathes out innumerable universes. And into each universe, the Lord again enters as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. Each universe is in that way created. He still further manifests himself as Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, and that Vishnu enters into everything, even into the minute atom. This fact is explained here. He enters into everything. Now, as far as the living entities are concerned, they are impregnated into this material nature, and as a result of their past deeds, they take different positions. Thus, the activities of this material world begin. The activities of the different species of living beings are begun from the very moment of the creation. It is not that all is evolved. The different species of life are created immediately along with the universe. Men, animals, beasts, birds, everything is simultaneously created, because whatever desires the living entities had at the last annihilation are again manifested. It is clearly indicated here by the word avasham that the living entities have nothing to do with this process. The state of being in their past life, in the past creation, is simply manifested again, and all this is done simply by His will. This is the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after creating different species of life, He has no connection with them. The creation takes place to accommodate the inclinations of the various living entities, and so the Lord does not become involved with it. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitang Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Bitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again, and under my will, it is annihilated at the end. So this word automatically, avashat, it happens in the Judeo-Christian Bible also. They say, the Lord said, let there be light, and there was light. It's just by His will, automatically it happens. He doesn't have to undergo some difficult process, and it's not happening by evolution or by some complicated series of causes and events, but it's automatically taking place according to the desires of the living entities in the previous creation. They've been sleeping now for a long time in a dormant state, and then when the creation manifests itself again, then the living entities are reawakened, and they take suitable bodies to carry out the kind of desire. Like we were talking about before, whatever state of being or consciousness we're in at the time that we leave this body, that determines the kind of body we'll take in our next life. And similarly, at the end of the creation, those who haven't become liberated yet, those who haven't gotten out of, because that's the purpose, as we were talking about before, the purpose of our life is not to accumulate things or to just experience moments of happiness that are fleeting or something like that, but it's to actually reawaken our dormant love for Krishna, along with which comes perfect spiritual knowledge of our relationship to Krishna, with which we stop the process of taking birth and death, trying to enjoy sense gratification through material bodies. And we resume our actual original constitutional nature as being eternal servants of Krishna. So that should be the goal of our life. And Bhagavad Gita teaches that goal and teaches how to achieve that. And so this process of how Krishna creates the universe is explained in much more detail in Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadeva Goswami explains, in fact it's said that any of the great Puranas have to cover these different subject matters. One of them is the creation of the universe. And this process Srila Prabhupada is describing here of the different Purusha avatars, the three Vishnus, Mahavishnu who creates the universes, Garbhadakshay Vishnu who becomes like the soul of each universe, from whose navel grows the lotus of the different planetary systems, on the top of which sits Lord Brahma. And then Kshirodakshay Vishnu who enters into every particle of creation. And it's the same, these are all different portions or expansions, manifestations of, partial manifestations of Krishna. And that's explained in the Bhagavatam. Yes, go ahead, Ramananda Saka.
Prabhuji, I need some clarification, and if you can clarify, what is an incarnation? What is an expansion? What is a plenary portion, and what is a portion of plenary portion?
So, the word incarnation is an English word that the word, like anyone who speaks Spanish will know that carne means meat or beef, actually. One time I went to a Cuban restaurant in Miami and I said, no como carne, soy vegetariano, and I ordered tamales. And they brought me the tamales and I took a bite out of it and there was like some kind of pork in it, some ham in it. I said, but I told you I don't eat carne, because I thought that was the word for meat, flesh. But they said, that's not carne, that's puerco. It's not beef, it's pork. So, sometimes Victoria, you speak Spanish, right? Russian, okay. So, but anyway, in Latin, the word incarnation comes from a Latin word, and they say, that, for example, in the book of John, it says the Word was made flesh. And the idea is that when Jesus appeared on earth, he had a body like ours made of flesh, muscles and bones and sinews and stuff. But actually, the Sanskrit word for incarnation is avatar. It really means one who descends from a higher realm to appear in this plane so that we can see them. And so it doesn't really have to do with like them becoming embodied, because the body of Krishna is always spiritual. So the word avatar is just, there are different kinds of avatars that he actually appears in the world, just like he creates the world like we're describing with these different Vishnus in charge of different parts of parts of the creation, and also so many different demigods who have their own different functions. And but he also wants to call everyone back to actually wake up to their full. He gives them the opportunity to pursue their desires, and so he's created this material world for two reasons. One reason is to give everyone the opportunity to fulfill their desire of doing something other than their eternal activity of serving him. And it's a wrong thing, it's a mistake to do something other than serving him, and it ends up not being as enjoyable as the conditioned souls think it's going to be, and also along with it they're identifying with something that they're not, so they can't really get that satisfaction, and they also have to die. But he also, the other reason for the creation is that he gives them an opportunity to reawaken their natural, eternal, perfect consciousness, which is what we should do. We shouldn't try to just assert our independence and enjoy the material facilities of the creation, but we should try. So he enters into the world and makes everything possible, and then he also sometimes comes and appears as if he were one of the beings, one of the created beings in the world. Just like we're human beings and all the other human beings we know, they're just souls who, because of their karma, have taken birth as human beings in our human society. When Krishna appears, or Rama, he appears as if he were a human being. He looks like he's just one of, like the people in Vrindavan think he's one of us. He's part of our village. He's one of the, we just love him so much. We don't know why we love him so much, but he's one of us. And those in the Yadu dynasty might then realize a little, because their intensity of love is different. The Brijbasis love Krishna so much in such an intimate way. He's very pleased with the fact that their love is not mediated by or interfered with by this sense of awe and majesty. But over in the Yadu dynasty in Dwarka, some people know that, even though he's our kinsman, he's really the creator of the universe, and he's got 4 arms, and he's the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and and so forth. They have more understanding. Just like Arjuna, Krishna is revealing to Arjuna in the Pandava Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, how he's really the source of all the demigods and the sages, and nobody knows him, and he creates the universe in the beginning, and then in the end it's annihilated and it comes back into him. So he's describing himself that way. So, but he just appears like another human being. He's driving Arjuna's chariot, and people like Shishupal thinks he's my rival. He's not. Who does he think he is? I'm better than he is, and why did he marry Rukmini? I was supposed to marry Rukmini, and So they think of him like not as the Lord of everything. This is Yoga Maya, that Krishna is like a supreme mystic, and he can just, even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's even stories of yakshas and other beings who have the powers to enchant you and make you see things that aren't really there. And like in warfare, in order to demoralize their opponents, they make it appear that blood and things are raining out of the sky, and tridents are falling on you and stuff, and you get in that, when you have that vision, you become very much perturbed and unable to, stand up and fight with them. So Krishna is much more powerful than any old yaksha, and he can control and mystify everyone's perception of everything. And the world, like we were saying before, is so much full of so much more things than we can experience with our senses or with our science, our ascending process of understanding the world. There's all kinds of things going on in the world. Just like I saw some report where the soldiers were wearing these night vision goggles, and the other people couldn't see because it was dark out. But with the night vision goggles, the soldiers that were wearing those could perceive all these things that other people couldn't see. And similarly, there's all other parts of the universe that we can't see because we're limited with the kind of senses we have. A bat can detect things by sonar, by emitting these high-pitched sounds and experiencing how fast it takes to reflect. So there's different kinds of senses, different kinds of perception. So Krishna appears in the world as Leela avatars in different forms. And he does this, he explains in the 4th chapter, in order to reestablish Dharma. He appears when there's a decline in Dharma and there's a predominance of irreligion. And he annihilates those who are demonic, miscreants, bad actors. And he protects his devotees and reestablishes the principles of religion. But especially he protects his devotees and shows us how he loves and how he interacts and how he has this relationship with his devotees. And for example, in Bhagavad Gita, he's reestablishing the principles of the eternal philosophy of Krishna consciousness by explaining to Arjuna these beautiful words which we're now studying. And so that's one kind of avatars, these Leela avatars. There's also the Manus, who are the progenitors of mankind, who give the laws of mankind, and they're called Manvantars. There's the Guna avatars, the demigods in charge of the 3 essential modes that material nature works in: goodness, passion, and ignorance, or creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Or I should say, goodness is maintenance, passion is creation, annihilation. So Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So there's different kinds of avatars, and there's Purusha avatars. That's what we're talking about here. The Mahavishnu and Garbhodakshay Vishnu, so forth. So there's a whole science of how Krishna expands himself, and so all of these, we call them avatars. They're all expansions. Some of them we are also expansions of Krishna, but we're small. We're called Vibhinangsha, that we're like separated limbs, it's described. Because we're in the material world anyway, we're acting as separated limbs. But because we're jivas, we're anu, we're very small. And we're not plenary expansions. Plenary comes in, it's another Latin word. Plenum means fullness, complete. Like there was a restaurant in San Francisco called the Luna Plena. So it's Italian restaurants. Italian is very much like Latin. The full moon. when something is a plenum, it's a complete, it's full. It's not partial. So if you have a plenary meeting of the such and such committee, it means that all the members of the committee are there. You know, the full committee. It's not just a subcommittee that's meeting, but it's the full thing. So a plenary portion is actually kind of a contradiction in terms, because if it's a plenum, it can't be a portion. But plenary portion means that, with Krishna, these contradictions can take place. And the invocation to the Upanishad says, Om Purnam Adaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. So it says that the absolute truth is Purnam, it's full, it's plenary. And whatever is produced from the full is also full. Purnat Purnam Udachyate, so it is said. And when you take the full away from the full, Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate, it remains full. Hare Krishna. So, this is explaining Krishna's absolute nature. And it's a very important part of this 19th chapter, actually. I mean 9th chapter. I said 19, excuse me. The 9th chapter. It's called Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, that Krishna is simultaneously one and different from his emanations. And when we study Bhagavad Gita, we should study the verses and the purports themselves and understand them fully, but we should also see how they exist in the flow of the argument. And Krishna is full, he's the complete whole. The example Srila Prabhupada often gives is the sun. These are examples of things that are, we don't have any material. The examples are heuristic devices. They help us understand, they explain us. Just like if we want to point to a star in the sky, we might say, you see that tree? All right, stand here and look along. You see that branch of the tree? If you look at that branch, you'll see that twig of the tree, and from that twig, at the end of the twig, there's a leaf. You see that, and then the star is just right above that, and you can see it. So we're pointing us in the direction of actually understanding it, but we have to actually get realization of it. But the sun is a good example, that the sun is one thing. It's a ball of fire, but it's radiating everywhere. And we can't say that its radiation is separate from the sun. It's all part of one thing. The sun and its radiation is all part of one thing. And similarly, Krishna is like that. He's non-dual, he's absolute, and everything that emanates from him is a part of him. It's part of his whole being. And he's completely independent, and he contains everything. So each part of him is also a reflection of him. It's an expansion of him. It's if you take the sunshine and you shine it on a bowl of water, you'll see a little image of the sun in the bowl of water, because the rays are coming and they're reflecting the image of the sun in the sky. And yet there is a distinction. So the non-duality of the absolute truth has to be understood in this way. And Krishna says in this chapter, in the 4th verse, Maya tatamidang sarvang jagad avyakta murtina. In my avyakta, my unmanifested form. There's another contradiction itself. Unmanifested form. A form has to be manifested. Avyakta murtina. Murti means form, and avyakta means unmanifested. By me, the whole universe is pervaded. This is a very essential, important part of theology. If anyone believes in a personal God, how can a person be everywhere, right? We say that Krishna is both transcendent and immanent. Immanent means he's present everywhere, because every particle of creation is a spark of him. It's coming from him, and it completely reflects him. If we understand, I think I quoted one time when I was here this poem by Tennyson, "Flower in the cranny wall, I hold you in my hand. If I could know you stem and all, root and all, I would know what God and man is. If I know you stem and all in all, I'd know what God and man is. Every little particle of the creation contains with it the imprint of the original creator. So Krishna is pervading everything because everything is an emanation from him, and every emanation from him is a reflection of him. But it should not be misunderstood, as it's often misunderstood by some people will say, well, if everything is Krishna, then once I realize that everything is Krishna, then why should I be devoted to Krishna? I am also Krishna, you're Krishna, Krishna's everywhere, so why don't we just enjoy his creation and forget about him being the source because it's all the same? No, there is a distinction, an important distinction. Purnasya purnamadaya purnamevavashishte. Even when you take the complete away from the complete, the original complete, the source of everything remains the complete. Prabhupada describes it or translates it, remains the complete balance. Krishna is fully independent, but we're not fully independent. So there's a distinction. The sun globe is, on the one hand, all the sun rays are part of the globe, but the globe isn't part of every ray in the same way. It remains, like we say in a common language when we open the window and it's daytime, oh, the sun has come into the room. But it's not like the sun planet has actually entered into the room. It would burn up everything and we would all immediately melt. If even a little part of even the magma in the earth came into the room, like sometimes the volcanoes erupt and things, and you see this flowing melted rock. But can you imagine the sun, is so hot that even from 90 million miles away, we're still experiencing that it's too warm outside. Imagine if it was right here or next door. So there's a distinction. There is a real distinction, an important distinction, that Krishna is independent, but we're not. Krishna is complete, he's full, but we're not. So I was answering your question about plenary portions. So some of his expansions are also still endowed with his full qualities of omniscience and all-pervasiveness, just like Rupa Goswami describes in the Nectar of Devotion, you're familiar with the different qualities of Krishna and how some of the qualities the living entities can display, the jivas can display in some quantity, never as much as he can. But there are certain qualities that only Vishnu can display. Some of them Brahma and Shiva can display, some of them only Vishnu can display, and then there's 4 qualities that only Krishna displays, especially sweet pastimes, especially loving devotees, especially beautiful form, and his flute. He always is playing on his flute. So these are special qualities. So that's what a plenary portion is, a svangsha expansion, that's Krishna's own limb. And that means that it's endowed with all of Krishna's powers. And it's full. But it's still a portion because it's not endowed with these 4 qualities that only Krishna has, this special sweetness. This is something in Gaudiya Vaishnava theology that they explain. Some people ask that how can Krishna's devotees in Vrindavan, they don't even know, Hare Krishna, thanks. They don't even know that he's the creator of the universe. Like I said before, they think he's a member of our village. So how can that Krishna in Vrindavan be the original source? And why not, Narayan in Vaikuntha, who's all powerful and opulent and stuff, as he's the source? And the explanation is that he's the source of our feelings also. And he's the reservoir of all rasa. And the rasa that the devotees in Vrindavan experience, the intimate rasa, is more complete. It is more complex. It has more, it has everything that the devotees of Narayan have, but it has something additional too. So therefore, according to the 6 Goswamis, from this analysis of rasa, they say that Krishna is complete. But getting back to this Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, this chapter describes that, and it's a very important part of all theology. For anyone who wants to assert that there's a God and he's a person and you can have a relationship with him, and yet he's omnipotent and omniscient and existing everywhere, and he's the source of everything and the original creator of everything, there are apparent contradictions that come up that have to be explained. And Bhagavad Gita explains those completely. And Bhagavad Gita explains that in his unmanifested form, he's pervading everything and everything's in him. And then he says, and he's not in them. Just like the wind blowing everywhere is still in space, so all beings are resting inside his energies. So he's everywhere. And then he says, but I'm not everywhere. And that's where we're reading now. He says, everything's coming out of me. At the beginning of creation, I expand the universe and impregnate it with all the living beings. And then at the end of creation, at the annihilation, which is cyclical, it's happening over and over again, everything enters back into me. So he says, everything's in me and it's not in me. And he's directly contradicting himself. And he calls this his yogam aishwaram, his mystic opulence. That we can know that it's true, but it's not logical. How can everything be in him and yet everything's not in him at the same time? That he's the source of it, it comes out of him. And then he describes that the whole cosmic manifestation is under him, it's created by him, and under his supervision, material nature is working. He says that the fools, mudhas, they don't respect him. When he comes as a Leela avatar and walks on earth like a human being, they deride him, like Shishupal. They don't understand his higher nature. They just think he's another competitor, another human creature. And they are bewildered by atheistic nature. Rakshasim asuring chaiva prakriting mohining shritaha. They're taking shelter of the prakriti, the nature of the Rakshasas and the Asuras, and so they don't respect Krishna. But then he describes the others are the Mahatmas, and they're always Mahatmanas tumang partha diving prakritim ashritaha. They're taking shelter of his divine nature. And bhajantyananya manaso gyatva bhutarim avyayam. They know that I'm the original being, and they are always engaged in my devotional service and thinking of me, and they understand my inexhaustible nature, how I can be both personal, impersonal, both everywhere, and yet still existing as a person with whom you can have a relationship. And what do? Satatam kirtayanto mam ye janak paryupasate. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhavrataha namasyantascha mang bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. They're always engaged in chanting my glories, bowing down to me, worshipping me with great dridha. We were talking earlier, sudridha vishvasakori, with great determination. So that this is the 9th chapter. He's explaining that those who are taking shelter of my divine nature, they can know me as a person. And he says others, they know me as the universal form, or the impersonal absolute truth, or the pantheon of different demigods. But it's really me. I'm really the absolute truth. And I am the source of everything. And he goes on to a description of how he's the grandfather, and this, he sends forth the rain and the heat, and he brings it back, and he's death personified, and he's immortality, and he's he's the ultimate shelter and goal. And then he describes that, he talks about how those who worship, performs Vedic sacrifice to attain higher planets, come back again. So that's the thing that I wanted to say, that there's the impersonalists sometimes say, Krishna is everything and everything is Krishna, and therefore you don't have to worship Krishna. You should just worship whatever form attracts your mind, whatever your Ishta Deva is. It can be any demigod, or even it could be anything you imagine that you become attracted to. And because the ultimate goal is to just realize your oneness with everything. But there's a higher goal. The higher goal is to realize your relationship with Krishna. And therefore that idea that any demigod, it's actually one of the offenses to the holy name, to think that the names of demigods, even Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, are equal to the name of Krishna, or that they're independent of Krishna, is one of the impediments to chanting the holy name properly with love. Because Krishna is actually fully independent, and the demigods are all dependent on Krishna. Lord Brahma is a devotee of Krishna. He's not, I am also Krishna. That's not his mood at all. He's always, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he prays that he wishes he could just get the dust of the feet of the Brijbasis, and that would be the perfection of his life. So this 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita says it's not, they don't go to the same destination. Yes, they're worshipping me. Ye pyanya devata bhaktya yajanti shraddhayanvata tepi mam. What is it? Ye pyanya devata yajantya vidhi purvakam. They're worshipping me indirectly because the demigods come from me. But he says they're doing it wrong. He said that one who doesn't know my nature in truth, tatvenatas chavantite. Let's read those verses. In the 9, 24, 25, 23, let's go. Yeah. 9, 23, 24, and 25. Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayan vitaha tepi mameva konteya yajantya vidhi purvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. So those who say, well, you could just worship any god, they're actually advising you to worship Krishna in a wrong way, not the right way. It's not the right way to worship Krishna. He says, Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhur evacha natu mam abhijananti tatvenatash chavantite. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. So he has a special nature, that he's unique, that even though he's everywhere because everything emanates from him, he's still the source of everything in a unique way. You can't say that, you are the source of everything and that you're moving the planets. I know some people meditate like that. I imagine that I am the source of everything and that the whole universe is only coming from me. But it's not true. You don't have that power. Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti pitrivrataha bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyajinopi mam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. So it's not the same. You don't get the same result worshiping Krishna and worshiping something else. Yes, there isn't anything but Krishna, ultimately. And Srila Prabhupada explained it this way, that Krishna is everything, but not everything is Krishna. Actually, Krishna is everything, but we don't realize it because we're interested in becoming the lords of other things. We're not interested in seeing Krishna in everything. We have to actually learn how to see Krishna in everything by loving him. And then we can see how Krishna is in everything. But if we think, yes, Brian. It's not on somehow.
Now?
Yes.
Okay. One thing I've always had trouble wrapping my arms around is the idea that the material world is a manifestation of Krishna's inferior energy. How can something that's all perfect have something that's inferior?
The reason it's inferior is because we want to relate with it as something that it's not. So we see it as dull. We see it's inferior because it doesn't have any will, doesn't have any consciousness. That's what inferior nature is. It's inert. Fire, water, air, earth. These elements, we think of them as things for a living being to exploit and move. They don't move on their own. They don't have feelings. They don't have consciousness. They don't have life force. So Krishna is saying that we are embodied souls. When our body dies, we still exist. Anything that's real always endures, and anything that's not real doesn't. Anything that's real never ceases, but anything that's not real does cease. So the energies, because they're Krishna's energies, he's like an expert electrician that can use the same electricity and make a heat in the winter or make air conditioner in the summer. He can use it both ways. So it's because of our desire to be enjoyers, to be in the illusion of being enjoyers, that he gives us the inferior energy to play with, that you can feel superior to something that has no will of its own. And our bodies, although we're taking our bodies to be ourselves, are actually made of that inferior, inert stuff. It's different from ourselves. Our senses, our mind even, is actually made of that inferior stuff. It's a covering, a temporary covering that doesn't itself feel. It's covering the soul. The soul is the source of life, of will and consciousness and intention. And so therefore, in the 4 seed verses of the Bhagavatam, let's see, I think I have them in this blue book here. If you go, Ramananda Saka, to 2nd Canto, chapter 9, verse 32, 33. Can you, the little blue book? Yes. I think we used to recite all these verses. We called them the Bhagavatam verses. Before every Saturday morning, we would recite all these verses. And not the Brahma Samhita, we had a group of our Bhagavatam verses. And however, Ramananda, do you have the seed verses up there? I don't have good enough eyes. Are they still in this? Let's see, the prayers of Queen Kunti. What tab are they at? Thank you. So 2.9.33, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Aham evasam evagre, nan yad sat asat param, paschadaham yaretachcha, yo vishishyeta sosmyaham. So this is the essential knowledge in 4 nutshell verses. Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. Krishna is speaking to Lord Brahma. So we're understanding this is the same idea from the verse we read tonight about how Krishna is saying that the universe expands from me and it goes back into me, but I remain the independent, the one independent. Ritertam yat pratyeta na pratyeta chatmani tad vidyaratmano mayang yata bhasho yata tamaha. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Kind of wrap your mind around that one. Whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. So it seems like it's substance, but it's reflection. And it seems like it has no life. It's inert and it's dark and it's not illuminated. So that is material energy, it's his inferior energy, but like I said, Krishna is like an electrician who can use it. So the pure devotees can see the world as related to Krishna. They don't think that there's any value to anything outside of Krishna. And they engage everyone. This Krishna consciousness movement, the Goshiyanandis, the preachers like Srila Prabhupada, are actually trying to engage everyone to enlighten them again to service to Krishna. So they want to spiritualize everything. This is the essence when we have an arti and we offer things to Krishna, because Krishna is the absolute spirit. Anything related to him, like his name or his clothes or the things that we offer in love and he accepts, become spiritualized. You can't approach spirit without being spirit. So that's your insight, is that if it's all emanating from Krishna, how can it be inferior? And your insight is correct, because once you see it in relation to Krishna, you see its actual spiritual reality. But we still are absorbed in sense gratification. We tend to see things as having value in themselves for our sense enjoyment, for our enjoyment, independent of Krishna. Okay, let me forget about it. I've done enough chanting now. I want to go take some me time and watch TV, sit in the hot tub and pina colada or something like that. So we're trying to enjoy these things that are just material things, that are temporary. They give us some momentary satisfaction, but they don't give us the real rasa of bhakti. So then the next verse says, O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. This is the ultimate understanding, that the world around us it's the reason it's inferior energy is because we want to engage in inferior energy. And as soon as we see it in relationship to Krishna and offer it to Krishna, we can spiritualize it so that we can see that even though we're here in this material universe, it's just as good as the spiritual world for a pure devotee. And moreover, even though we can see that people are conditioned souls that are taking birth and death and suffering, and you know, they are suffering. If you talk to people, they'll complain to you. If you become a mentor of people, they'll always tell you that, oh, how can you please help me? You know, my business is failing, my family relationships are not good, my health is no good. You know, they have distress, and they're seeking relief from distress. Often people are praying to God, please, you know, give me the things I need so that I can be happy. And that's a sort of primitive way to start to relate to God, to realize that there's a person in control of everything, and the things I need, you know, we're realizing our dependence on Him. But the advanced devotees are thinking, how can I make you happy? That's our original consciousness. When we're in that mood of trying to please God, then we're automatically happy. That's the solution to all our problems. So, finally, the last verse, a person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. So we were talking about that before, about how the goal of our life has to be Krishna. And that love of Krishna is the solution to the problems of life. And it's actually our original treasure that we've lost. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya tells Sanatana Goswami, it might be Rupa Goswami, I forget. He tells him of a poor man who then is told by a fortune teller, no, you think you're a poor man, but you don't know, you actually have a very rich benefactor, you a great inheritance, and it's buried in a certain place. But if you try to dig it up on the north side, it's protected by a ghost, and if you try to dig it up on the east side, it's protected by a black snake, and if you try to dig it from the south side, actually the east side is the good. The west side is the snake, and if you try to dig it from the south side, there's these insects that will bite you, the bees will come out and sting you and stuff like that, and you have to go this way. And what he's talking about is that our real treasure is love. But if we try to approach through jnana, or through mystic yoga, or through karma, we won't be able to reach that. But if we approach through bhakti yoga, then we can actually reach that goal. And when we have that love of Krishna, we can see, even though it does defy logic, can the material elements be material and still spiritual? But it's there in our rituals. We're offering things to Krishna, and we're taking material things, a flower, we offer it, and then it becomes holy, and we all smell it because we're smelling prasadam. It's because it's related to Krishna. And everything that's related to Krishna is spiritual. And yet, we see that if we leave the prasadam out, it will appear to decay. But that's due to our vision because of our not being perfectly enlightened. That's described in the... Ramananda, are you there? Nectar of Instruction, text number 6. Can you get me a Nectar of Instruction, because I can't see that far, I'm sorry. I have it there. My friend Bhaktivatsala got a surgery today where he got a new lens because he had the bad cataract in his eye. And I have that too. I want to get that surgery too. And he just got it. It was very easy. They just give you a new lens and then again. Of course, his eyes were dilated yet. He hasn't told me yet how wonderful it is that he can see again. But yes, this is the right verse. Can you scroll down to the Sanskrit part of it? Drishtaik svabhava. I don't remember it. Pushar prakriter guna. No. Thanks. Drishtaik swabhava janitayar vapushash chadoshayar naprakritattvam iha bhakta janasya pashyat gangam bhasang nakalu buddhbuddha pena pankayar brahma dravatvang apagachati niradharmai. Translation: being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a realistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee's having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee. But despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the waters of the Ganges, which sometimes, during the rainy season, are full of bubbles, foam, and mud. The Ganges water do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. So in the rainy season, lots of silt and things are washed into the river, and it becomes muddy and it doesn't seem all crystal clear and pure. The water itself is still the holy Ganges water. And similarly, the pure devotees, although they appear to get old or sick, or to take birth in a low family, or have some infirmity or bad complexion or something, because they're totally dedicated in Krishna consciousness, their bodies are spiritualized, just like the flower that we offer to Krishna is spiritualized. And though it appears to be something like an ordinary flower, it's different. And we see the difference. That was one of the first things of how I became a devotee. I stopped and there was a devotee playing drum on my campus. I was in Florida, so they had a banyan tree in the University of Miami in front of the student union, and the devotee was sitting in front of a banyan tree and playing a drum and chanting. And I went up to him because I'd been to the temple, my high school had gone to the temple, and I went up to him and said Hare Krishna and talked to him. But I thought, I wasn't going to follow this very strange exotic philosophy or anything. And it seemed all very weird to me, but it seemed also to all make sense in a strange way. Like I was surprised that it was internally coherent. And I talked to him, and then I chatted with him for a little while. And then he pulled out of his pack, he was selling incense, so he had a cloth bag from India, and he had incense in it, so his books and everything smelled really nice. But he pulled out a little plastic wrapper with a cookie in it, a sugar cookie. And he gave me this cookie, and it tasted different from any cookie I'd ever tasted, much better, so it's special. So because of our connection to Krishna, this is Lord Chaitanya's secret weapon, this prasadam, and the holy name and stuff. It's like, it's just a song. People try to explain it. Why does it make you feel so good? And they say, it's a nonsense syllable, and you could chant anything, and if you chant Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, you'll get the same effect. But you won't. You won't. And if you take the prasadam that's been offered to Krishna, and that Krishna has accepted it, it tastes very wonderful and special. And as you can perceive its spiritual quality with your senses and mind. Krishna's arranged, He's created this material universe, like I said before, for two purposes. You have material senses and mind, they can degrade you or they can uplift you. So these are the two purposes. He's allowed you to play in this illusion of being the master and owner and controller of matter, and that's why it's inferior energy. He's given you this, something you can dominate, even though you're not the dominant Lord, even though you're not the dominator. Dominus is the word for God in Latin. But you can act like the God of something. I and mine, I am the owner, I am the Lord of all I survey. And you can struggle with other people to get more power, more money, more position, my will be done. They pray, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. God, your will should be done, not my will. Right? This is the right prayer. The Lord's Prayer. But so that's the inferior energy we're dominating. We have senses so that we can consider to be enjoyers of this inferior energy. But we can also use those same senses in devotional service to offer everything. We would learn from a spiritual master how to live and how to pray and how to offer everything to Krishna. And Rupa Goswami says actually that renunciation, where we think, oh, that's material, therefore I reject it, I won't accept it. He says that's inferior. That's Phalgu Vairagya. That kind of renunciation where thinking things to be material, we have nothing to do with them, is inferior to what he calls Yukta Vairagya, where you can see how everything is connected to Krishna and you know how to employ everything in Krishna's service. And the great devotees, Goshtyanandis like Srila Prabhupada, are also coming around the world and trying to engage everyone in devotional service, reawaken their knowledge. And what have we got, like 15 more minutes? And they're encouraging everybody to become spiritualized. And when they become spiritualized, their whole body becomes spiritualized, because everything they do, everything they think, everything they eat, is all for Krishna. And then, it's true that we can, even though we're here in this material world where people are getting old and dying and things like that, if we have the actual spiritual vision, we can see how the eternal spiritual reality is there. A devotee can live in... This book is a wonderful book, and it's just 11 verses, and it goes from the very beginning of Krishna consciousness up to the very esoteric descriptions of Radharani and her special Radha Kunda, her special pond. And it says that that the holy name of Krishna is sweet, like sugar candy, like sugar cane juice. But if we have a disease, like if our liver is diseased and we have jaundice, then things that really taste good will taste bad to us and smell bad. And I had jaundice one time, and I tried to, because I was getting real skinny, I tried to walk into a restaurant in Jagannath Puri. I started to walk into a restaurant thinking maybe I could just get some toast or something, to get some. And when I got close to the door, the smell of food cooking made me so nauseous that I couldn't walk in. It was like this powerful thing that made me run back out into the fresh air. So he says that if you have the jaundice of avidya, of ignorance, then you can't taste anything. But the holy name of Krishna is so wonderful that by regularly chanting it, just like if you have jaundice, your doctor will give you some lozenges, some sugar candy that you can suck on, that will you'll be able to get nourishment. Like I was able to drink some lemonade, something like that, so that I didn't starve to death. And then eventually the disease will be cured, and you'll be able to taste how sweet it is. So he says that's the holy name of Krishna is like that. At first we might not be able to taste all the time when we chant immediately. Oh, this is Krishna. This name is non-different. Krishna. It's the reservoir of all pleasure. It's full of bliss. We might not feel that at first. We might feel like, I want to watch TV. I want to go get something to eat just see what's in the refrigerator or something. But he says that by regularly chanting, it's the medicine will cure the disease of ignorance at its very root, and then we can taste everything that's sweet. And then he says something very wonderful. He says that by this chanting and remembering of Krishna progressively, we can actually live in Vrindavan. Now, there's two ways to take that. One is he's saying, oh, you should give up your materialistic life and get a plane ticket and go to the holy dham where the devotees are there. And we do that. I'm going to go, and Vaishasika's there now in Govardhan. He goes every year for Kartik, and he chants 64 rounds every day, and then he reads with Keshav Bharati Swami and other sadhus. He reads Srimad Bhagavatam and just soaks up that spiritual atmosphere there in that very holy place. But another way you can take it is that by actually chanting and constantly chanting and remembering and curing the disease of ignorance, we can actually, wherever we go, we can live in Vrindavan, in our inside. We have these two lives. Srila Prabhupada was walking and talking and preaching and translating books and so forth, but he was also constantly aware of Krishna and Krishna's pastimes. He could talk to Krishna and get directions from Krishna. And this is the quality of an advanced devotee, that an advanced devotee remembers Krishna very deeply. In this, there's a purport here which describes that. 8. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastime, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Braj, Goloka Vrindavan, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. So the devotees in Vrindavan, they have a special spontaneous mood of loving Krishna without even thinking of him as God. And by associating with those devotees, and we can learn to follow their mood, we can become that kind of devotee. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented on as follows upon this verse: one who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting and remembering Krishna and his name, form, quality, path, and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavan and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, form, pastimes, and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee. This is the sum and substance of all instructions regarding the condition of devotional service. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana Dasha, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy names of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain the stage of acceptance called Varana Dasha. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smaranavastha, the stage. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smarana. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated, and it is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi, or spiritual trance. After smarana dasha, or samadhi, has fully developed, one comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. This is called sampati dasha, the perfection of life. So people talk about self-realization, but some people think that just realize, Aham Brahmasmi, I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul, I'm part of the eternal, non-dual, all-pervasive, unmanifested, transcendental truth that is beyond time and space. I am that same truth. Tat Tvamasi. They think that that's the sum and substance and the ultimate goal. But that's not complete self-realization. Complete self-realization is to know our personal relationship with Krishna in Vrindavan. Or, if we happen to be a devotee in a different mood of service, we may have a relationship with Narayan or Lord Ramchandra or some other form of Krishna in Vaikuntha. But we actually have a personality. It's not that we want to extinguish our personality, but we want to find what our real personality is. When I first joined the Hare Krishna movement, they told me, become more and more spiritually advanced, you don't become less of an individual, you become more of an individual. I liked that. That, you know, we all wore the same clothes, the same, you know, we were in uniforms and stuff, but it wasn't that we were trying to just become static impersonal beings or realize our impersonal nature. We were actually trying to realize our true individual nature. So we have about 5 more minutes. Did I answer your question, Brian? So any more discussion of anything we covered? Especially I'm trying to cover this achintya bheda bheda tattva, that Krishna is everything, but at the same time he has a unique quality that nothing else has. And therefore, our goal should be to see Krishna in everything, not to use the fact that Krishna is everything as an excuse to neglect Krishna. Sometimes I encounter, when I go sell Bhagavad Gita to people say, oh, I don't need that. Sometimes people say that. I don't need that, I know it already. I am Krishna. And I said, have you ever read it? No, it's words, book, doctrines, ideas. If you realize I am that same thing, then you can just, and then I said, well, then what do? Then I go on with life. I can really enjoy life with a thrill because I really see that everything is Krishna and I'm enjoying. But they're actually in Maya. They're thinking that they don't have to love Krishna. They're thinking that they don't really have to care about Krishna, and they never realize who they really are in Krishna's Leela. That's when we become more individual, because we actually have, there's 5 different kinds of rasas or moods. One can love Krishna as a servant, one can love Krishna as a friend, one can love Krishna as a parent, or one can love Krishna as a lover, or one can also be in a neutral state, which is less emotion, less transcendental emotion, shanta rasa. So now it's time for Gaura Arati. Let's put all the asanas away, and we'll attend the beautiful Arati of Lord Chaitanya.